What's up, everybody? Problems back here again, talking about week 5 coming up. Week 4 was a good one. Had some pretty good games. Saw some people really show that maybe they're not as good as everybody thought they was. Starting off would be the Oklahoma-West Virginia game. Oklahoma struggled early. It was a close game, and they definitely pulled it out at the end. Might have just been one of those games that they just kind of overlooked. But West Virginia might be a lot better than expected, seeing how they gave Alabama a run earlier in this year. We had South Carolina, Vanderbilt. South Carolina really did not look like a team that gave it to Georgia a week prior. They a W is a W, I guess, no matter how you put it. But nevertheless, it wasn't the greatest showing, I guess. I don't know. A W is a W. But Vanderbilt really is not a good team. At least they haven't shown it this year. Maybe they're coming out of their shell finally against South Carolina, and who knows? Maybe they'll win 6 straight after this. You never know. Oregon, Washington State. Oregon. I think they just overlooked Washington State personally. I think everybody as a good team always has a close game somewhere, whether or not it's against a good team or a bad team. There's always a close game on the schedule. I think Oregon's looking ahead to a couple things, and they were really just not looking at Washington State right now. The big ones, Auburn, Kansas State. Boy, Thursday night game, that was a close one. Kansas State was ready to play. I think Auburn showed that they're one of the best teams in the country, but going into Manhattan against the Snyder family, they pulled it off, and W's a W, and that's why Auburn is definitely one of the best teams in the country and a definite threat to make to the playoffs and the national championship game. LSU, Mississippi State. I think a lot of people have been overlooking Mississippi State. I mean, don't forget they are still in the SEC, and the SEC is the best conference in the country. They looked like Texas A&M out there running over South Carolina at the beginning of the year. I mean, they had LSU's number. They were throwing, they were running. The quarterback was on point until the very end of the game. And then LSU, it was actually really exciting to watch. I thought LSU was going to come back and win it. They had a momentum. They were scoring touchdowns. Definitely one of the better games, even though LSU still lost. It was a really good game to watch. And then the big one everybody was watching, Florida State, Clemson. Florida State won in overtime. Obviously, Florida State's a better team than Clemson. Clemson's got some issues, which they will work out because they're going to be good here in a couple years. But my personal opinion, I think that with Jameis Winston not playing, obviously you design your team around a player like that. My personal opinion, I don't think Jameis Winston should even have been on the sidelines. You, as a player like that, need to control yourself and understand that you're not only a role model, but you're a reflection of the school. Your teammates depend on you. Your school depends on you, and then lastly, your fans depend on you because you don't go to school to play football. You go to school to get an education. First off, it's the bottom line. But Jameis Winston shouldn't even have been on the sidelines. You're the reason that your team was in that position because you can't keep your mouth shut and you can't act like you got some damn sense. How many strikes is it going to take for you to realize that you've got a future ahead of you that the 1% of the country will never have? All you got to do is keep your head clean. But no, you got to go crab legging and whatever the deal is with the female. I don't believe he did it anyways. And now you're going to go yell some obscene shit on TV. I mean, what are you doing, man? Come on. I think it was a distraction. The whole time about the game, it was showing Jameis Winston on the sidelines. He should have been in the locker room or at home watching that football game. He did more damage to that team being there. I don't care if he tried to coach up the second string quarterback or whatever. He shouldn't even have been there. Jimbo Fisher shouldn't even allow it. And then he has the audacity to walk out on the field wearing his pads. Unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. Jameis Winston lost a lot of points in my book for acting like a damn idiot. But, I mean, what do you do? They won. FSU's still number 1 in the country. Obviously, they're going to come out this week with him back in the game, liable to put up 100 points. Nevertheless, you got to keep your head clean, kid. You just can't be acting like you're just some normal schmo in school, because we all know that you're not, and you should know that you're not. If you should have learned anything from Johnny Manziel last year, that anything you do, the media is going to be on you. But that's the end of my rant about that. Conference rankings, I do this every week. Obviously, the SEC reigns on top. I mean, you've got Alabama, you've got Auburn, you've got Texas A&M, you've got Ole Miss, even LSU losing. They're still a really good team. Now you've got Mississippi State bouncing out onto the scene. You've got South Carolina, obviously, is still not a pushover because they seem to win games that they shouldn't win, but drop games that they, it's typical South Carolina football. Florida, obviously, showing that they couldn't get it done against Alabama. A lot of turnovers in that game, and if it hadn't been for those, Florida might not even have scored but 1 touchdown. And then, the SEC is just the SEC. I've got nothing else about it. I thought maybe they would have been a little bit weaker this year, and it just shows that they just keep coming out and more teams and winning football games and showing that they're the best in the country. Behind them is the Pac-12. There's no question about it. Even with Oregon struggling, they're still one of the best teams in the country. You have Stanford. USC is okay, I guess. I mean, they are, I guess. Washington can score a lot of points. Washington State, I mean, they hung with Oregon, so, I mean, they're always a threat. Arizona, obviously, Arizona State, even though they got smashed by my pick, UCLA, to win the Pac-12. Maybe UCLA is finally waking up and deciding to play football. And there's a sleeper team that a lot of people are overlooking, even though they dropped a lot of points in the fourth quarter. I think in the last 4 minutes, they dropped like 19 points against Arizona. It's California. California has not been good for a long time, and they've got a team out there in Berkeley right now that I think have the possibility to upset some people in the Pac-12. I really do. Giving up that many points to Arizona, I think, like I said, they blew a 19-point lead in under 4 minutes. That's not going to happen again. I can promise you that. That's something that, being a Virginia Tech fan, it happens from time to time, but it's not going to happen again in the same season. Those boys can put points on the scoreboard, and they are going to shock some people in the Pac-12, and they will make a bowl game this year. I'll put my dollar on that one. California will make a bowl game this year. And then after that, you got to have the Big 12. And of course, you got Oklahoma, Baylor, obviously not Texas, because they're really not a good ball team at all. They're actually pretty awful. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, which I'm making this video after the Thursday night game, loved the uniforms of that game. Texas Tech has some of the coolest colors in college football, and it's about time they did something fun with that. And Oklahoma State's looked really good too. But the Big 12 is definitely coming in at number 3. And a lot of people are going to hate me for this one. I got to put the Big 10 at number 4. You have your teams. Nebraska looked good. Michigan State, obviously, I think they hung 70-something points. Ohio State. Penn State is undefeated right now. I don't know if anybody knows that. Penn State is undefeated, and they're very, very likely possible to go 5-0 after this weekend. So we might be talking about Penn State here soon. Michigan's not very good. Indiana come away with a big win against Missouri. That was a huge win for the Big Ten. So maybe they're getting their shit together out there in the Big Ten. I don't know. But I know dead last, I got to put the ACC. One of them is, besides Florida State, there's really nobody else in this conference that's that good right now. It's a roller coaster. Besides maybe Duke, as much as I hate to say that, Virginia Tech is not good. They have some serious. They have so much young talent, and there's a serious coaching flaw somewhere. I'll talk about that in a minute. But Wake Forest obviously is not that great. NC State, no. UNC got trampled by ECU. Not saying they're not a good team, but they got run over. Miami's always a question mark. Louisville is a so-so team, but the ACC just is not. Is not the conference right now. Syracuse is creeping. They've got Notre Dame this week. I think that one might get ugly. I know a lot of people are talking about the Florida State NC State game. It's Mike Glennon's not there, and this is not the same Wolfpack that they've had. They've always had some good linebackers, some good corners. They had Emerson and that Irving guy for a while, who were pretty good. They don't have them anymore. And Jameis Winston coming off of a suspended game, especially a big game against Clemson, he wants his Heisman stock to go back through the roof. It might get ugly in that one. Jameis Winston should have a big game. I'm going to talk about my boys for a minute. I usually don't like to talk about Virginia Tech because I'm such a hard fan, but they've got some serious coaching staff issues. I don't know why they hired Scott Loeffner. He is not that impressive to me. I don't know what resume they were looking at. He was terrible at Auburn. I mean, terrible at Auburn. And then they bring him into Blacksburg, raving about how he's this amazing whatever, and he's not good at all. He's just not. They have a lot of talent that they're not utilizing at all. Some of the play calling is just, and I'm not the only one that's watching this. I mean, people that aren't even Virginia Tech fans that I was sitting with last week were asking me questions like, who are your coaches and what are some of these things that they're doing, and I don't get it. I don't understand. Obviously, throwing 3 interceptions is never going to help you, especially on your side of the field, but you should have never been in that situation, and obviously things need to change. I hate to say that, but things need to change in Blacksburg. There's too much talent there, and you're too much. Your fans demand too much to not start winning these ball games that you shouldn't even been dropping. ECU maybe because they are a good team. Georgia Tech at home, there's no explanation for dropping 2 games at home, especially against Georgia Tech. They shouldn't even be on the same playing field as Virginia Tech right now. Like I said, the 3 interceptions kills you. I want to see the team that came out against Ohio State in Columbus and beat Ohio State. The defense, the offense. I have not seen that offense since that night watching that game. I have not seen it. I haven't seen the play calling. Some of the, they bring in J.C. Coleman, who's I think he's 5'9", 180 pounds, and you run him up the middle. Anybody who watches college football is going to say, you know what, why are you doing that? When you have Marshawn Williams, who is 6 foot, 230 pounds. Why are you running your smallest tailback up the middle when you have a power back? You have to utilize your speed. Your line isn't that big. Put them in motion. Get people outside. Put them in space. Open the field up to pass the ball. And they just can't do it. They play conservative. They don't put points on the board. That's a problem. That's a problem. Virginia Tech's going to have big issues this year if they cannot fix that. Ran over. We got big game. We got some pretty good games coming up this week. We've got Texas A&M, Arkansas. I know a lot of people are saying that Arkansas is, on a rise in the SEC, and they are. They're scoring a lot of points, and they look pretty good. But I don't know if anybody else has watched Texas A&M play. They're pretty good. So I'm going to go with A&M on this one. I'm not really sure what the point spread is, but I'm going to take A&M over Arkansas. South Carolina, Missouri. I want to say South Carolina, but with Missouri getting beat by Indiana, this is a big time for them to shine, is to come into Columbia and beat South Carolina team at home. I think that would get it's going to fire that team back up. They're going to be pumped up anyways, losing to Indiana. And every time I'll pick South Carolina to win or lose, they can't do it. I don't know which South Carolina team is going to show up. You just never know. It's going to be the South Carolina team that played Vanderbilt. Is this going to be the South Carolina team that showed up and beat Georgia? Is this going to be the South Carolina team that got hosed by A&M? I don't know. So it's a tough pick, but it will be a good game to watch. I know that College Game Day is there. I live in South Carolina right now, and it's just that's a big deal when these boys, when game day crew comes to town. I got a couple big ones to watch. It's going to be Georgia and Tennessee. Georgia really put it on Troy, but obviously it's Troy, so Tennessee is being overlooked by a lot of people. I think their offense is a lot better than people think. And Georgia showed that their secondary may not be the best in the country after that little South Carolina game. Obviously, their run defense can't be that good either because Brandon Wiles went crazy. But it's also a rivalry game. In rivalry games, you really can't. You never know what's going to happen in those games. It can be an awful team against the best team in the country, and you never really know what's going to happen. So the Georgia-Tennessee game is a good one to watch. I don't know. I think it's a 3:30 kickoff game. Stanford-Washington. A lot of people going, Washington. Well, they might not have the best defense in the Pac-12, but Washington can score a lot of points. And either Stanford is going to try not be able to stop them or try to slow them down. Nevertheless, Stanford's going to have to put points on the board to win this ball game. And I don't know. Might be a trap game. Might not be a trap game. Nevertheless, it's going to be a good one to watch. Another one is going to be Notre Dame-Syracuse, because Syracuse is kind of they're good, they're not good, they're okay, they play well sometimes, but they've got Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame should win that game. They should. Eric Olston is really playing some good ball after missing last year. He's really, really coming out and playing some football. That's all I got for this week. You want to hit me with your questions and comments right down there. Problems Talking Football at Gmail. Hit me up. I'm on Twitter now. Problems Talking Football. You guys got anything? And enjoy the week. College football.